Hi, and welcome to the next episode of Belly to Belly. And today we're here to talk about SelectUSA preparation, and we're joined by our good friend, Dan Glazer from Wilson Sonsini. Hey, Dan.
Hi, Bill. How you doing?
I am wonderful. It's so great of you to join us today. And, you know, SelectUSA has kind of been compared to the World Cup of U.S. market entry, and it's obviously a big event. We want to make sure that companies coming are prepared and they can pre-meet resources that'll be helpful for them. You've been involved in SelectUSA for years, but it'd be great if you wouldn't mind just taking a couple minutes, and telling us about what Wilson Sonsini does to help companies coming into the U.S. market.
Sure thing. Thanks, Bill. So Wilson Sonsini is a Silicon Valley headquartered law firm focusing on working with tech and life sciences companies. 15 offices around the U.S. and all the major tech and life sciences hubs. And the focus is truly on working with the companies through their life cycle, everything from incorporation, initial employment documents, through their financings, and through let's say an IPO or an M&A exit, and then beyond, perhaps as a public company. In terms of helping companies think through their U.S. market entry, we have a particular U.S. expansion team that focuses on working with European, Asian, South American, other non-U.S. companies as we think of it through their U.S. life cycle: launch, scale, raise venture capital, and then exit through M&A or IPO in the United States. And most of the time, these are companies that have built a foundation in their home market, and then they think about accessing the U.S. commercial markets and or the U.S. capital markets. And the goal of our team is to help them think through, at that inflection point and beyond, how do you compete and win on that stage in the U.S.?
Well, and our audience probably can't tell by your accent, but you're actually not based in the U.S. currently. Do you want to just talk a little bit about your London operation?
Sure thing. So I head up Wilson Sonsini's London office, which is a team of about 40 U.S. and dual qualified UK-US corporate tech lawyers in London that work in particular with UK and European tech and life sciences companies through that U.S. life cycle. We think of it slightly tongue-in-cheek as augmented reality Silicon Valley. Right, that it's a blended Anglo-American team in London, right? That rather than having to go to New York or Boston or the Valley to find some Americans to help you out, we've actually brought the Americans to the UK and Europe to meet companies there, sort of on their own home turf, as it were, and help as they begin to plan and execute on that U.S. lifecycle journey.
Fantastic. No, that's really, really helpful. And again, the encouragement here is companies reach out pre-event. Let's create some good conversation. So when we get to the event, we're going to be that much more productive. And again, as I said at the outset, you've been participating in SelectUSA for many years. What is it about the event that particularly you find important, and what brings you back?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially the largest gathering of companies and individuals globally who are thinking about coming and investing in the United States, whether that means moving employees to the U.S. or hiring employees locally, or building let's say a new factory or whatever it is in the United States. Everybody comes together at SelectUSA, and it's in the Washington D.C. area, which is sort of perfect in terms of geographic location to think about how to engage with America as a whole. And one of the things that I find most valuable about the SelectUSA Summit is how it brings together the economic development organizations from each of the 50 states and many of the larger ones from the cities and counties as well. And because of that, you can go and essentially see all of America from sea to shining sea, as it were. A little bit of a tongue twister there, right? From sea to shining sea, as it were, and see all the different states and localities, and understand what it is that they have to offer to a non-US company coming to the US. They can help you often find talent. They can help you find office space. They can help you find other incentives to setting up. They can help publicize the launch of the company in the US. Some of them have matched funding for companies raising money. There's a whole range of different initiatives that the different states and cities economic development organizations have to help non-US companies launch, scale, and compete effectively in the US as they create jobs in the US market. And all of those are brought together under one roof at the SelectUSA conference.
Yeah, a pretty action-packed 3 days, right?
There's a lot going on.
For sure. And that actually really leads into really my last question, which is, so you think of the companies coming, and some already have established U.S. operations and they're looking to expand further. Others, this will be their first trip to the U.S. And so thinking about both the event itself and also, taking advantage of, sort of coming all the way to the U.S., are there some recommendations you would share with companies that are coming, ways to get kind of most out of out of SelectUSA, but also potentially even of their U.S. visit?
Yeah. So a couple things is, if you do a little bit of research in advance and a little bit of planning in advance, it'll really pay off. In other words, you go back to what I was saying about having, all the economic development organizations there under one roof. It's certainly possible to do some initial research on the SelectUSA website itself to think through, okay, what might my short list as a company be of different states or localities that I might be interested in learning more about, and where I might be interested in expanding my business to. Rather than go to each of the 50 states and then you get kind of overwhelmed, you can narrow it down to like 5, 7, whatever the number is, a more manageable number, where you not only go and spend some time at their table, right, but you actually set up one-to-one meetings with them in advance to really deep dive as to what those states and localities have to offer. Right, it just becomes a much more manageable way to handle a conference that is actually several thousand people at this point. Similarly, right, understanding who is going to be there in advance and what besides the different states and localities, what types of organizations do you want to meet with? Do you want to meet with anybody, let's say from the U.S. Commercial Service, the Department of Commerce, and the SelectUSA team itself, especially because they have representatives all over the world? Are there advisors that you might want to talk with, whether it be tax or insurance or banking or legal, right? And start to get a sense of what are the sort of logistical and administrative aspects of expanding to the U.S. that you might want to think through. It's all there at the summit, but you want to try to break it down, as I said, into manageable chunks, and the way to do that is to do your research and planning in advance.
I love it. The picture that was coming in my head as you were talking was, the idea is to make the room smaller, right? Any of the 3,000 or plus attendees, each of us is probably trying to talk to 25, and so you just have to figure out which 25.
Understand if you're going to the summit, understand who are the most relevant of those 3,000 to you, right? Yeah. And how do you find them and find them, and how do you connect with them in advance to potentially set up one-to-one meetings?
Absolutely brilliant. Dan, this has been fantastic. I think both hearing really about Wilson Sonsini and what you do to support companies coming to the U.S., and then also your tips on getting the most out of SelectUSA. Really valuable stuff. So thank you for taking the time, and I can't wait to see you in June.
You got it. Good to see you. Thanks for taking the time today, Bill.
Thank you.